Victoria couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, could barely think. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it. That dark mass lodged deep, blocking everything. And Sean's face, the pain, the silent tears. On the third night, she sat on the edge of her bed, Bible open in her lap. But the words blurred. All she could see was Marcus, her cousin, deaf for 6 years, written off by every doctor, until someone finally looked. One procedure, one moment of attention, and his world exploded into sound. Victoria's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She knew what she'd seen in Sean's ear. She knew. But who was she? A maid. No degree, no training, no right to touch that boy. If she was wrong, if she hurt him, she'd go to prison. If she was right, but Oliver found out she'd acted without permission, she'd lose everything. Her job, her income, her grandmother's care. Lord, she whispered, voice cracking. What do you want from me? Silence. Just the ticking of the clock. She thought about her brother Daniel, dead at 14. He'd been sick for months, complaining of pain, but they couldn't afford doctors, couldn't afford help. Victoria watched him fade, watched him struggle to breathe, watched him try to speak words that wouldn't come. He died in her arms, silent, just like Sean's world. She'd promised herself that day, promised God, never again. She'd never stand by while a child suffered. But this was different. This wasn't her brother. This was a billionaire's son. And she was nobody. Victoria closed the Bible, stood up, walked to the window. The moon hung heavy outside, spilling silver light across the gardens. Somewhere in this mansion, a little boy was sleeping with pain in his ear and silence in his world. And she was the only one who'd noticed, the only one who'd seen. God, she breathed. I'm scared. I'm so scared. But if this is what you're asking, her voice trailed off. She thought of her grandmother's words. Asterisk, the Lord doesn't call the equipped child. He equips the called. Asterisk. Victoria wiped her eyes, made a decision. Tomorrow, if Sean showed pain again, she would act. She would trust what God had shown her, even if it cost her everything. She climbed into bed, heart pounding. Sleep wouldn't come, but peace did. A strange, heavy peace, the kind that comes when you've decided to step off the cliff and trust that God will catch you. Tomorrow was coming, and with it, the moment that would change everything. The next evening came too quickly. Oliver was away on business. The house was quiet. Victoria was folding linens in the hallway when she heard it. A thump. Her heart stopped. She ran toward the sound. Sean lay on the hallway floor, curled up, both hands pressed to his ear, face contorted in agony. Tears streamed down his cheeks. Silent tears. Victoria dropped to her knees beside him. I'm here, baby. I'm here. She cradled his head gently, tilting it toward the lamplight. The dark mass was clearly visible now, swollen, pressing against his ear canal. Her hands trembled. This was it, the moment. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the sterilized tweezers she'd taken from the first aid kit 3 days ago, just in case. Her breath came in short bursts. Lord, she whispered, guide my hands, please. Sean looked up at her, eyes wide, scared, but trusting. I won't hurt you, she signed with one hand. I promise. He nodded slowly. Victoria steadied herself, took a breath, and gently, carefully moved the tweezers into his ear canal. Her hand shook. She could feel it, the dark mass, dense and sticky. She hooked it gently, pulled. Resistance. Her heart hammered. She pulled again, slow, careful, and then release. Something slid free. It landed in her palm, dark, wet, biological. Years of buildup that had stolen his hearing. Victoria stared at it. Her stomach turned, but before she could react, Sean gasped. A real gasp, audible, loud. His hand flew to his ear. His eyes went wide, wider than she'd ever seen them. He sat up suddenly, looking around the hallway like he'd never seen it before. Then he pointed at the grandfather clock on the wall, the one that had been ticking his whole life, the one he'd never heard. His mouth opened. A sound came out, rough, broken, unpracticed, but real. Tick, he whispered. Victoria's tears fell. Yes, baby. That's the clock. You can hear it. Sean's whole body trembled. He touched his throat, felt the vibration of his own voice. His eyes filled with wonder and fear and something else, hope. His mouth opened again. One word. The first real word he'd ever spoken. Dad. Victoria sobbed. She pulled him close, holding him as he shook, as sounds flooded his world for the first time in 8 years. You can hear, she whispered into his hair. Thank you, Jesus. You can hear. Sean clung to her. And then footsteps. Heavy, fast, coming down the hallway. Victoria looked up. Oliver Hart stood in the doorway, face white as death. Eyes locked on his son on the floor and the blood on Victoria's hands. What have you done? Oliver's voice shook the walls. He rushed forward, pushing Victoria aside, grabbing Sean by the shoulders. What did she do to you? Sean flinched at the sound. So loud, so sharp, but then his mouth opened. Dad, I can hear you. Oliver froze. His entire body went rigid. What? Sean reached up and touched his father's face. Your voice, he whispered. Is that your voice? Oliver's legs buckled. But before the moment could breathe, before he could understand what was happening, his eyes landed on Victoria's hands. The blood, the tweezers, the dark mass sitting in her palm. Terror overtook wonder. Security, he bellowed. Now! 2 guards appeared instantly. Get her away from my son. Victoria's heart shattered. Sir, please listen to me. I didn't hurt him. I helped him. Look. She held out her palm, showing him the blockage. This was inside his ear. This is why he couldn't hear. I removed it. You're not a doctor, Oliver roared. You could have killed him. The guards grabbed Victoria's arms. Sean screamed. Actually screamed. No, don't take her. The sound of his son's voice, loud, desperate, real, stopped Oliver cold. But the fear was too strong. Take her to the security office. Call the police. Victoria didn't resist. As they dragged her away, she looked back at Sean. It's okay, she mouthed. You're going to be okay. Sean sobbed loud, messy sobs, the first sounds of grief he'd ever made. At the hospital, doctors swarmed around Sean. Tests, scans, examinations. Oliver paced the hallway, his mind spinning. His son was speaking, hearing, responding to sounds. It was impossible. A nurse approached him. Mr. Hart, the doctor needs to speak with you urgently. Oliver followed her into a small office. Dr. Matthews sat behind the desk, face grim. Mr. Hart, I don't know how to say this. Just say it. The doctor slid a folder across the desk. This is your son's scan from 3 years ago. Oliver opened it. There, circled in red, was a notation. Asterisk dense obstruction noted in right ear canal. Recommend immediate removal. Asterisk. Oliver's blood turned to ice. Someone saw this? Dr. Matthews nodded slowly. It appears so, but there's no follow-up, no procedure scheduled. Your account was flagged for ongoing treatment protocol. The words hit Oliver like a bullet. Ongoing treatment protocol. They'd known. They'd seen the blockage and they'd left it there because his money was too good. Because his desperation was profitable. They kept my son deaf, Oliver whispered. On purpose. Dr. Matthews said nothing, but his silence said everything. Oliver's hands trembled. All those years, all those millions, all those specialists shaking their heads. They'd lied. And the one person who told the truth, who'd actually helped, was sitting in his security office waiting to be arrested. Oliver stood. Where are you going? The doctor asked. Oliver didn't answer. He had a maid to find and a lifetime of apologies to make. Victoria sat alone in the security office, hands folded, head bowed. She wasn't praying for herself. She was praying for Sean, that his hearing would hold, that his father would understand, that the boy would finally know what it felt like to live in a world full of sound. The door opened. She looked up. Oliver Hart stood there. But he wasn't the same man who'd dragged her away an hour ago. His eyes were red, his face broken. He looked like a man who'd just watched his whole world crumble and rebuild in the same breath. Victoria. Her name spoken softly, almost reverently. She stood. Mr. Hart, I can explain. Don't. He walked toward her slowly. Don't explain. Don't apologize. Don't say a word. He stopped in front of her. And this billionaire, this man who controlled empires, fell to his knees. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Victoria's breath caught. The doctors knew, Oliver said, voice cracking. They saw the blockage years ago. They left it there because my money was too good to cure. Tears streamed down his face. I trusted them. I trusted credentials and degrees and expensive hospitals. I threw millions at my son's problem and never once stopped to actually look at him. He looked up at her. But you did. You saw him. You saw his pain. You paid attention when no one else bothered. Victoria's own tears fell. I just loved him, sir. That's all. Oliver shook his head. No, that's everything. He stood slowly. I've spent 8 years trying to buy a miracle. And God sent one through the woman I hired to clean my floors. Victoria wiped her eyes. God uses the willing, Mr. Hart. That's what my grandmother always said. Oliver nodded. She was right. They walked back to Sean's hospital room together. The boy sat on the bed, headphones on, listening to music for the first time. His face was pure wonder. When he saw them, he pulled off the headphones and ran straight to Victoria. He wrapped his arms around her waist. Thank you, he said. His voice was rough, unpracticed, beautiful. Victoria knelt down and held him tight. You were always worth hearing, baby. Always. Sean pulled back and looked at his father. Dad, I can hear your heart. It's beating fast. Oliver dropped to his knees and pulled his son close. For the first time in 8 years, Sean heard his father cry. And Victoria, standing quietly beside them, finally let herself breathe. God had answered her prayer. Not with money, not with medicine, but with willing hands and a faithful heart. Sometimes that's all a miracle needs.